Good afternoon, dear colleagues. The topic of our meeting is the situation in the border territories of Russia, Bryansk, Belgorod, and Kursk regions, of course. An assessment of the current events must be given, and this will be done. But the main thing now is to solve the urgent problems that are developing at the moment, as well as based on forecasts for the development of the situation, of course. The main task is facing the Ministry of Defense to squeeze out and dislodge the enemy from our territories and, together with the border service, to ensure reliable coverage of our state border. The Federal Security Service, together with the Russian National Guard, must ensure a counter-terrorism regime and an effective fight against sabotage and reconnaissance groups of the enemy. And the Russian National Guard has its own combat missions. Civilian agencies are obliged to ensure the supply of law enforcement agencies with everything they need. I will not list everything, but, of course, this concerns industry, transport, the construction complex, medicine, and financial support, and finally, together with the leaders of the relevant regions, we must focus on the main task. And this is support for our people who need help and protection. Before moving on to work and giving the floor to the participants of the meeting, I will add a few more words. It is becoming obvious why the Kiev regime refused our proposals to return to a peaceful settlement plan, as well as to the proposals of interested and neutral mediators. Apparently, the enemy, with the help of its Western masters, and they are fulfilling their will. Since the West is fighting us with the hands of Ukrainians, so, apparently, the enemy is striving to improve its negotiating positions in the future, but what kind of negotiations can we talk about with people who indiscriminately strike at civilians, at civilian infrastructure, or try to create threats to nuclear power facilities? What can we even talk about with them? Second, such actions, of course, pursue the main military goal, namely, to stop the advance of our troops to completely liberate the territories of the Lugansk, Donetsk People's Republics, and the territory of Novorossiya. So what? What is happening on the line of combat contact? What are the results? The pace of offensive operations of the Russian armed forces, volunteers, veterans not only has not decreased, but on the contrary, this pace has increased by 1.5 times. Our armed forces are advancing along the entire line of combat contact. And finally, there is another obvious goal of the enemy to sow discord, dissension in our society, to intimidate people, to destroy the unity, cohesion of Russian society, that is, to strike a blow to the domestic political situation. But here too there is already a response from the citizens of Russia. This is the unanimous support of all those who have fallen into trouble. This is support for the army, and an increase, which is very important. An increase in the number of those wishing to join our men, our fighters, who heroically defend Russia with weapons in their hands. The number of those wishing to sign contracts with the Ministry of Defense has increased in recent days. The leaders of the Kiev regime not only commit crimes against the Russian people, but, in fact, they have embarked on the path of extermination of the Ukrainians themselves. The Ukrainian people, apparently, whom they no longer consider their people. The losses of the Ukrainian armed forces are increasing dramatically for them, including among the most combat-ready units and divisions that the enemy is transferring to our state border. Of course, the enemy will receive a worthy response, and all the goals that we face will, without a doubt, be achieved.